Hey everyone. So I think most of you would be quite relieved after the strong performance by the broader market today, right? So even the small caps were up 2.5%, and the mid caps were also up around 2.5%. So yesterday, in yesterday's video, I had pointed that we had made a hammer, which is a bullish reversal, and then after that, usually you would see a pretty decent bounce, right? So what caused this huge gap up and a up move after the gap up as well was the Fed meet. So in yesterday's Fed meet, they kind of hinted that there would be future rate cuts, right? So they kept the rates constant at 5.25, and then they hinted that in the year, this particular current year itself, there might be a few rate cuts, three times at least, right? So the market rejoiced that, because usually whenever there is kind of a rate cut, what happens, the liquidity kind of improves and it kind of pushes the market higher, right? So that is what happened even in the Indian markets. And also if you look at the accumulation, so the accumulation, which was around like 50 levels, that has spiked up to 93, 94, right? Which is a pretty decent one, right? So if you look at 13th and 14th, so 14th was around that level. So the same level, we are back to those levels, right? So here decent accumulation again, here at this level decent accumulation has happened, which kind of gives us a sense that there is going to be an up move. So if you consider this as a double bottom thing, then the target for that becomes somewhere around that 16,200, which is a 10% move from the current levels. So high chances that the broader market also rallies about 10%. But there is this thing that there is nothing significant that comes out in the electoral bond thing. So today SBI has submitted all the data, the unique and the number and all of that. So in case there is nothing significant in that, high chances that we rally up to those levels. If there is something that is not so great about that news, right, then don't know, there might be an adverse effect and the FIs might start selling as well. But as of now, the market rejoiced the rate cut, or let's say the news of there would be 3 rate cuts. But one thing to keep in mind is, so if this is the Fed's rate hike, rate cut thing, right? And these blue bands that you see, right? So these blue bands are recession bands, right? So whenever there has been a significant cut, right, or just before the cut, the recessions have started, and then the Fed has kind of cut rates, right? So going back to 75, so this is when the market cracked, right? So we had a pretty decent recession here. That is when the rates also went down. Here again, so even here, right? So the only place where kind of rates went down and there was no recession was somewhere here, right? Probably around 84. But then I think that was because the rates were already in a downward trend, right? And a recession had already happened there, right? So after that, in 1990, when Fed started cutting rates, that is where we also had a recession again in 2001, right? Again in 2008, right? Here, that was due to COVID. So there are high chances that Fed is going to start cutting rates once the economy starts tumbling, or after they know that after 3 months it is going to start tumbling. That is when they would finally start cutting rates, right? So high chances, because if you look at this particular chart itself, right, there was no instance except for like in 83, 84 wherein they were cutting rates but there was no recession. That was probably because we already had a recession a few years ago itself, right? So high chances even now, as they start or just about to start, the economy will go into a recession. So that is the reason I'm not really that bullish as of now. I'm pretty optimistic, because once there is a recession, there is kind of a panic and everything starts coming down, right? So in that panic, you get great quality companies at much affordable, or let's say the valuations are pretty cheap, and usually they tend, like when you buy great companies at a reasonable valuation, you end up making multi-bagger returns on them, right? So net, the index might do a 10% rally because of the pattern that was formed, right? Even here, if you look at it, a double bottom. So high chances we go up to those levels or a little lower than that. But it all depends on what the electoral bond thing kind of tells us, right? So high chances the next another shoulder is now in the making, right? Hope this helps. Thank you.